Guys, real quick, I start this off a little bit strange. I was completely giddy. I was like MSG poisoned or something. It takes me about 15 minutes to come out of the poisoning. I continue to drink water. This evolves from nonsense more into a pretty serious midnight reality type discussion, so I hope you stick with this. Hey guys, it's Matt. This morning, I was poisoned by 2 breakfast sandwiches wrapped in plastic. I'm half sick. I'm half high. All I can do is the old-fashioned radio show. Is I literally lean my face into the mic, almost. I'm positioned such where I can prop my head up with my fist, like the thinker. But after it was Mandela affected, I don't believe my ability to comprehend or speak is compromised by the breakfast sandwiches. And I'm not in any way joking. If anyone's like, you're starting to smoke pot in the morning, I don't smoke pot. I have a beer or 2 at night, like an IPA and a Coors Light. I don't smoke pot. I don't roll blunts. I don't do drugs. This is very similar to when I had the Chinese food. Ow! Czar just, the nails, right onto my hand. She doesn't like her nails. You don't care about that. When I had the Chinese food and the MSG gave me that ridiculous spacey, it's worse. I don't know what sort of preservative or chemical they put in. I'm going to continue to drink water, and I believe the effects will slowly go away. Yesterday, I went to Aldi, and it's a new product in a box. It said breakfast sandwiches, croissants, individually wrapped and fully cooked. I took 2 out this morning, and they were like cardboard. There wasn't even like a real croissant, and the meat was hard. And I microwaved each for about 50 seconds to a minute. And I don't know the amount of chemicals and preservatives that must have been in those 2 breakfast sandwiches. If you threw both sandwiches into the river, into the Ganges, all the fish for 1,000 miles would probably die. I mean, maybe this is more serious than I'm letting on. Maybe I should call EMTs, but I think I'll be able to dilute it if I keep drinking water. And I think you'll see my my countenance, whatever that means, change over the next 30 minutes. I just looked up countenance, and it said a person's face or facial expression. So that didn't work. Oftentimes when I say whatever that means, many times I'm joking. But I will look it up to see if I used it correctly. You cannot see my face, so that was incorrect. The one thing I've learned is the video I'm making has to reflect my interest. Of course, I think of what you guys would like, but also my mood. Because the people here would immediately pick up if I was faking anything. You'd pick it up. I mean, people here can see auras. They see right through the trick. So again, I'll do this one more time, but I'm not going to keep doing this. But it's faking it. Oh, I need to present this type of video this morning. Isn't it a grand and wonderful morning? It doesn't work. It has to be genuine. And that's how this channel has been able to survive. I figured if I'm going to be all giddy and shit like this, I might as well take advantage of it and make that type of freaking video. So let's talk about foods for 5 minutes. I'm lucky enough to be very close to what's called the Amish country. It's one of the reasons we do the Amish classroom here. But do I take advantage of it? Do I drive just 20 minutes and find the Amish farm stands and farmers markets, which exist maybe 25 to 35-minute drive once you get on the other side of Honeybrook and Morgantown? Do I do that where there's a chance that it's actually real food? There's a chance that they're using seeds. I'm thinking about this. I'm getting very excited. The seeds might not even be Monsanto. It might be their own heirloom seeds. Is that the right term for it? Passed down from the Amish generations before, back through the 1800s. Instead of driving 25 to 35 minutes, I go out here to Aldi, and I literally buy a breakfast sandwich wrapped in some sort of plastic that literally could survive the worst parts of the movie The Road, a complete nuclear annihilation in Armageddon. There's 2 things that would survive: cockroaches and this breakfast sandwich. And I'm literally that close to the Amish country. Amish, Matt, you should be ashamed of yourself. There are many documented stories where somewhere, say in the Rust Belt, there are holdout farmers that won't take the Monsanto seeds. So the Monsanto vampires, they just lurk around. Maybe this farmer has 400 acres, whatever it may be, and they lurk around. They try to get samples. So, see, all the other farmers around this holdout farmer are using the Monsanto demonic seed, but then it blows in the wind, or by accident, Monsanto would never plant their seeds in the farmer that's trying to use the heirloom seeds crop. See, the Monsanto shit starts growing in this farmer's field, and then they bring in the court order injunction to shut them down. Your shit's growing my Monsanto seed. I didn't plant your freaking Monsanto seed. If it blows in here, it blows in here. What's that from Cold Mountain? Birds eats a seed, bird shits a seed, seed grows, everything's got a purpose. If the bird eats a seed, your Monsanto seed, and it doesn't die, and then it shits the seed and it grows in my field, what am I supposed to do? They get a court, I don't know, Thor can help me with this, a court injunction, whatever the hell that is, and then they have to shut the farmer down and say, oh, you can reopen right away as long as you switch over to my Monsanto devil seeds. I'm not even joking. They wait for their seeds to kind of sprinkle into the farmers that are holdouts, and then they try to bring lawsuits. What a bunch of demons and devils. So they'll tell farmers that they can use their own seeds. Oh, it's America, it's freedom, you do whatever but then they make it nearly impossible to use your own seeds. And if you're trying to do something a little bit different, they'll lurk like vampires behind rocks. And eventually they'll just, with their army of lawyers, eventually force you to succumb if you want to stay in business and you don't want to put your daughters up for sale. I see via the television ads that our senator in Pennsylvania, Bob Casey, is up for re-election this November. Now, I have no idea who the other senator is in Pennsylvania. Is Toomey still? I have no idea. I guess it must be Toomey, but I'm thinking back to when I actually was somewhat interested in this sort of thing 10 to 12 years ago. I have no idea the name of the Pennsylvania governor. I know Philadelphia has a relatively new mayor. I have no idea what her name is. I'm proud of this. Greg will call me and say, hey, did you see this news? And I'm like, absolutely not. Now, if it's major, somebody will send me an email about it and I'll go search it out. But Bob Casey, this utter delinquent, has been, I don't know how many years he's been a senator for the state of Pennsylvania up for re-election. Now, there is literally, if you go back through the entire annals, whatever that means, the history of the United States, there might not be a more do-nothing, care-not, delinquent, degenerate, reject senator than Bob Casey. Now, I remember his father was governor. This is when I actually paid attention. His father was governor of Pennsylvania 30 years ago? I have no idea. And you could kind of see why, the son's carrying the name. He became senator. Now, I know, look, if anybody's new, these senators, obviously they do as they're told. They're not, so I'm not really saying he should have been able to do this or that for the people. I'm not that naive. But I mean, in terms of just an utter delinquent that's just literally just plopped his ass in a chair for 20-some years, has done nothing but just spend the taxpayer money. I mean, look, I don't care. I know they report to a greater master. And if there's a new senator, are you expecting changes, Matt? Of course not. Are you new here? I just want that utter degenerate to just go away. Open up a chain of car washes or something. Please, I can't take any more Bob Casey. If you're listening to me, Bob Casey, just step down. Don't even run. Open a Rita's Water Ice or something, please. Put us out of our misery. Now, I mentioned I'm not aware of almost anything until somebody brings it to my attention, and I'm glad somebody brought this to my attention just a day or two ago. This is breaking news. 47-year-old Voyager 1 spacecraft just fired up its thrusters it hasn't used in decades. A CNN article by Ashley Strickland. Ashley, sweetie, are you a listener? Are you retarded? Ashley, maybe it's a bot and it doesn't know any better. It says here that currently the farthest spacecraft from Earth, Voyager 1, 15 billion miles away. The probe operates beyond the heliosphere, the sun's bubble of magnetic fields and particles that extends well beyond Pluto's orbit, where its instruments directly sample interstellar space. That's fascinating. It said here, last part, earlier this year, engineers spotted an issue when the fuel tube inside one of Voyager's thrusters became clogged. This is not a joke. Well, it is, but it's not. If the thrusters are clogged, they can't generate as much force to keep the spacecraft steady. Voyager's thrusters keep the spacecraft oriented in a way so it can communicate with the Earth. Guys, this is the cross that we carry. This is it. Okay, as much as we want to send this to Tony, send it to my stepfather, and with the tagline, how can you possibly still believe this? Read the attached article. We simply can't do it. It's so difficult for us. And I would love to send this all over the place. It doesn't work. This is one of our tests. It's something that is a test of this reality that we must overcome. Okay, you must see it like this. It's the only way to stay sane. So when I see something like this now, I basically have a mini insane asylum conversation with reality itself or the asshole dark and say, oh, screen reality, I see what you're trying to do to me, presenting this ridiculous, absurd article. You're testing me. You want me to pass it along to Tony. You want me to pass it along to my cousins. You want me to again, I've overcome this. I haven't done this for years. We've learned this, but it's just a reminder. And there are all types of people here. Somebody will send me a comment, Matt, don't you think we know that? And the person commenting has been doing this sort of thing for 10 years, and they don't even stop for a second to realize there could be some people here that are somewhat new that might have a little bit different perspective. It's just they think there's certain types of commenters that believe everybody here is exactly on their page. I'm like, really? You can't even understand that there might be people here at different levels, and it's the Amish classroom, and I have to cater to the first graders as well as the 11th graders? So I might say something that you know. Just I don't know, go water the flowers for 5 minutes until I'm done presenting it. I have to cater to all different levels here, of course. So this is a test. Say, hey, reality, I see what you're trying to do to me, and I'm not going to take your bait. I know the screen, you could say, pushes the boundaries of what it expects people to believe, but it is actually remarkable that it is going into these places. Let me just read this one sentence one more time, then we'll move on to something else. Earlier this year, engineers spotted an issue where the fuel tube inside one of Voyager's thrusters became clogged. Remember in yesterday's video, we're talking about those Polynesian mariners or whatever they called them, the Polynesian seafarers, and the whole article talked about how there was a 3,000-year history where they did all this and they did that, and it makes sense why this island's inhabited, and they used Tahiti as their... I mean, it had the history of... And I said, how could they possibly know the 3,000-year history of tribal people out on the other side of Tahiti? I mean, and just presenting it like they knew. Well, this takes it to a whole new level. Somehow knowing that people will not only believe that there's this toaster thing 15 billion miles away, that it's able to diagnose clogged pipes or something, get the message back to some degenerate meth head sitting at a terminal in Houston. That person then, we got a clogged freaking thruster. What? And then not only can they diagnose it, the clog can be fixed. I assure you right now, there are several mechanics around the country with the car is right in their own garage with a clogged carburetor, and they're saying this is going to be awfully difficult job today, and they're right there with the car with the appropriate tools, and even that's going to be a difficult job. What if we said to those mechanics, like Miss Vito's cousin and brother and aunt and uncle and father, my father's a mechanic, my grandfather's a mechanic, my cousins are both mechanics, and I'm sure your family's well qualified, but what makes you well qualified, Miss Vito? Because I'm an out-of-work hairdresser. Okay, the mechanic somewhere is going to have problems with the clog, and the car's right in a shop. What if we said to that mechanic, you got to unclog that carburetor, and we're going to put that car on the other side of Jupiter? What the Okay, this is the cross we carry. This is our test. Let's pass our test. It's that simple. Now, this sort of discussion we'll have briefly is better suited for a midnight reality. Maybe we'll break the concentric rings diagram out, relating your heart center reality bubble to the screen bubble. Maybe we'll do that on Saturday. But just to be brief, related to what we're talking about here, whenever I do scan the headlines at BBC or CNN, I always say the same thing to myself, and it gets worse and worse every time I do it. And I don't do it that often, but I say basically, if I could put it into one sentence, a fake world is somehow slowly replacing a real world. Now, the world to me was never, quote, real to begin with. It's a sliding scale. It's sliding down more and more towards the fake. Whatever was considered real and legitimate, and every bastion that may still exist as legitimate is being broken down across the board. And the only way to observe this is where we are, a fixed position off the ship of fools. You just simply don't notice it if you're vibrating with it on the ship of fools. But it is no, I don't think it can be better said. We'll never truly understand what's happening. A fake world is replacing a real world. And it's getting faker and faker as literally the weeks go by. But it can't truly become real unless that all that bullshit from the screen enters the real consciousness or the heart-centered reality bubble of real people that accept it, and as we've talked about many times, harden the cement on its bullshit. But there's just, I look at these headlines from time to time, and again, like I said, I don't do it very much, but sometimes I notice a change week to week or month to month. And I do, like I said, I take a look real briefly, just for a few seconds, to make sure Tucson still exists. If there's some major league event I need to know before, talking about breakfast sandwiches and things like that, I would need to address it. What's interesting to consider, though, is someone may say to me, Matt, okay, when you were in your 20s, you graduated Penn State, you're completely vibrating with the ship of fools, join the insurance company, they ship you out to Los Angeles, they ship you to San Francisco, again, trying to figure out the most important thing in your life is what car to lease. You're completely vibrating with this ship of fools. Of course I was. Most of us were. So, Matt, by what you're talking about now, do you think there's somebody, even though the ability to, quote, wake up was much more difficult in 94 before the internet and things like that, or the internet as we know it today, and YouTube and people sharing different ideas via videos, it was much harder. But do you think that the smaller group that, say, was awake in 1990 or 1994, and that's very, very difficult, of course, do you think that now that they're off the ship of fools, they saw the breakdown to the same degree from, say, that 20-year period from 1990 to 2010? Did they see the same degree of breakdown as you have seen since, say, you woke up? See, it's interesting. I think there's something to that. I think even if it was the 1800s, I do believe this is how this reality works. If you separate from it and completely step off the ship of fools and you're not vibrating with the current reality, it's just whatever Lincoln's saying, 7 years, all that bull crap. A tiny little group probably saw exactly how, a tiny group saw exactly how the Civil War was, say, cooked on both sides. The tiny little group, I think that they would see what we've seen because they're off the ship and the ship continues to sail without them. They would continue to see a breakdown towards the absurd. But I don't think it could possibly be the same level or magnitude or degree that we've seen from, say, 2006, 7, 8 to 10, when most of us came into truth, to now. I think it would be the same process. They would continue to see. I don't think anybody in 1860s was saying, I've observed what's happened over the last 20 years, 1860 to 1880, and a fake world is replacing a real world. I don't think they're going to go there. I don't think that the slide would be as violent or as absurd or to the same level or degree or magnitude that we've seen. But I think the process would be the same. I think they would notice things because, again, all the ship vibrates together. So this is the concept or the term new normal, in my opinion, not just related to CV. Of course, that's when it was introduced. The new normal is just a level of absurdity that people will just buy into. Like, that's just the way life is. And again, like we've talked about a million times, we're wrong. Because this place is, basically the screen reality. If it says something is normal, if we say it's not, well, we're in the tiny little minority. technically we're wrong. We want to be wrong. We don't want to be vibrating with the ship. But if the ship, or my friend Tony would say to me, Matt, to him it could be completely legitimate how a thruster could clog for a piece of metal 15 billion miles away, and somehow NASA in Houston finds a way to unclog it. That could be. I'm not going to go as far as we've toyed with putting it on the table that in his reality, there's actually that thing is actually out there. I'm not going to go there with Voyager. I will go there with some topics, but not with Voyager. Even in his reality, it's ridiculous. I mean, come on. There's no toaster 15 billion miles away, but forget that. In his reality, the ability to communicate with it or unclog a tube or whatever happened to it could be fixed. That's normal. And he would be right and we would be wrong. He's vibrating with the reality. He's completely in touch, in tune with the current reality. We're basing the fact that that's impossible off old standards or old reality that doesn't exist anymore. So we've talked many times about he would be right, we would be wrong. But again, you have to understand, as crazy as these headlines seem to us, in our reality, we're basing the standards or the metrics as to what is possible off something in the past, for example. Now, we don't see changes in physics. But you have to almost see it like changes in physics, where, I think if you dropped a brick in 1975 down between your feet, it would kind of fall the same way and land with the same thud. It seems like those things are relatively consistent in this place, but the way to see it is assume that all of reality actually changes, and the way you drop a brick in 1975, it actually falls different today. Now, off the Ship of Fools is just an example. I'm not saying this is the case. It's a way to understand how the screen reality works versus your new perspective off the Ship of Fools. I'm saying assume then you are off the Ship of Fools. You remember how a brick should drop from 1985 or whatever, and it just completely drops different today. Now, you notice a difference. Your old standard is your old reality is what is your standard or your metric or what you carry forth. The people in the Ship of Fools, the brick drops. It drops like a feather, and it lands with no sound. And to them, they're changing with it. They're vibrating with it. There's no change. There's nothing odd to observe. And it's a bad example, I guess, but that's all the ridiculous news headlines. That's the way they see it. Matt, bricks have always dropped kind of quietly like a feather, and they hit with no sound. Matt, it makes perfect sense that NASA could unclog a tube 15 billion miles away. In their reality, they would be right. This just makes sense. We're rooted somewhere else, if that makes any sense. But the most important part of this conversation is what you believe the reality is and what it's for. It's here again, Wayne's diagram, to work for you. All of this for you. So I've used the analogy of a truck and tractor pull. Reality itself is a wake-up tool. And your job is what we're doing, to separate from it, to not vibrate with it, to get off the ship, to leave it behind, to not look back. It's a truck and tractor pull. And see, the concept of the truck and tractor pull related to what we're talking about here is, remember, as the truck or the monster truck is trying to pull the weight is sliding forward towards the truck, which makes the weight seem thousands and thousands of pounds heavier as it moves each inch. Something like that. It gets exponentially heavier as it moves. So the weight never changes of what it's pulled. It's the physics of how it's sliding. Maybe it's sliding a little bit lower. I don't know how a truck and tractor pull works, but I think this reality works the same way. I think over time, the presentation of the Not Nilk, by design, it has to exponentially get more and more ridiculous and absurd in order to, just with a harder nudge or harder push, to wake up more and more people, or whoever is capable of being awakened, say in this generation or in this lifetime or in this age. I mean, who knows? We all got to go through the Kali Yuga and the age of Pisces. I mean, who knows how many times we've done this? And I know the whole concept of doing it over again in reincarnation triggers a lot of people, but I mean, to me, it's, I don't really care one way or another. I'm here now and I'm going to do all that I can do. Whether it's my last time or I have to go 10 more times, I'm still going to do all that I can do right now for the whole of me. I don't get triggered by it. I think it's ignorant to completely take it off the table. That there's no way that Tony's simultaneous incarnations could exist, multiple incarnations of you happening all at once, or you could say in the past. Whether reincarnation is real, you've done this thousands of times, what does it matter? You are here now. Simultaneous versions of you and all these different material reality systems, you don't know them. All you are is what you know here. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's very similar to what Tom Cruise said in The Last Samurai. To me, it's very profound what he said to Katsumoto. It seems like a letdown what he says, but I think it's incredibly profound. And Katsumoto or whatever is looking to Tom Cruise at a key point right before the battle, I guess, for some sort of real big advice. And he just says, what do you believe about this and that? And he says, I believe a man does what he can. And it seems like a letdown until his destiny is revealed. And Katsumoto kind of, that's it. His eyes just say, that's it. That's all you can give me or come up with. A man does what he can. But as I've seen that movie 7 or 8 times, and it's more and more profound every time I see it. And it's so true. You can't deliver some incredible advice like another incarnation of Vishnu will just come down and be Tom Cruise and give the advice to Katsumoto. It says a man or a woman in this he does what he or she can. We do all we can, not to help society. If somebody's in need in front of us, we will help them. But the way about yourself, to do what we need to do for the whole of ourselves, using all the weird tools and experiences that this reality affords. A man or woman just does what he can, and we're doing all that we can. And you know what? With the confidence going in to our last days that we've done enough, and that confidence to me is essential. Not that there's some hurdle or some metric imposed on us from the outside, or this thing called karma and things we have to please. We have to please ourselves or convince ourselves that we've done enough. It's that simple, in my opinion.